the things that are needed by one team are built into the system that's being plugged in, and making sure at the end of the day there's a better mesh between transmission of information from one team and one department to another.
So, welcome to another episode of Digital Transformation Talks. I'm joined today by Ayo, who is Regional Director for Hult Business School. Ayo, welcome. Why don't you start by, in your own words, telling us a bit about yourself?
All right, it's lovely to be on the show. Again, I really, really love what you guys are doing with the information you're putting out there.
Thank you.
So like you said, my name is Ayo Latoye. I work for Hult International Business School as a Regional Director. I oversee the enrollment teams that look after candidates coming from the Middle East and Africa. And so as part of my role, we touch on quite a number of things. We interface with marketing, interface with finance for invoices. We interface with a couple of systems that help us oversee the operational onboarding of a lot of students. So there are a lot of moving bits and pieces all over the place.
Wow, okay. That sounds, it sounds like a role that involves a lot of moving parts. So what are some of the challenges in your day-to-day work with those moving parts and those processes that you might face?
Well, one of the things that I can speak to actually, because again, I've done a role similar to this. I've been working for like 22 years. And if I look at what I do now and what I've done in the last couple of years as well, which has been in similar roles, one of the things that you often find is the challenge is all of these different pieces, the systems that need to talk to each other to make sure that you have a seamless work experience, but also a seamless experience for some of the students that you're supporting as well, across finance, across marketing, across operations, and then onboarding and things like that.
Okay, so that's so what you're describing there is typically the first thing we look at when we go in and we speak to any client is that communication across department, because and you could have, if you speak to each individual person, you ask them the same question, you'll get the same pain but a different answer, if that makes sense, right? Because, and it's always an issue either upstream or downstream. So with that in mind, what are some of the things you've seen in your experience where organizations have done a good job at actually bridging the gap and making that communication between those functions a bit more seamless?
So one of the things that I think we've done quite well at Hult, which I think a lot of people, I've heard a lot of peers in different industries struggle with, is we've found systems that we've worked on building systems that can interface a bit better. We've looked at bringing key stakeholders that run different departments to sit down with the people, the architects who are designing the system, to make sure that the things that are needed by one team are built into the system that's being plugged in, and making sure at the end of the day there's a better mesh between transmission of information from one team and one department to another. Okay,
excellent. That sounds like a type of client I like to work with, because you mentioned one key thing there, and one of the keys to success with digital transformation is systems are part of it, but in order for the system to work, people's also a huge part of it, and having the right people advise on their needs, and not only their needs in terms of what they do, but in terms of what should be happening end to end, is crucial to any implementation. So it's really great to hear that happen for you. So now looking a bit more broader now, and obviously from what you do, you're not directly in the digital transformation space. You're someone, I would say, digital transformation probably happens to you. How has that been communicated to you in organizations where you've worked when something is going to change, whether it's a system or a process?
Well, so I know there's the ideal scenario and there's the reality of what actually happens.
Give me both.
Okay, so let me tell you the reality of what, again, my career spanned like 22 years now, but what typically you see happen is a decision has been made to bring on a software, and then there's a meeting that's called to say, guys, this is what we're going to be rolling out for this. And oftentimes that doesn't work well, because sometimes some needs haven't been taken into consideration, and so you're playing catch up. The ideal scenario is when a solution is to be rolled out, the primary stakeholders who are going to be impacted, who are going to use it. You bring them together.
Yeah.
You talk to whoever the consultants are that are bringing in this solution. You let them understand what the needs are. Because again, a solution is meant to make work easier, but you need to understand what the job is in the first place. Otherwise, it's just going to be a pain point that's going to make work a lot worse. Because I've been in, again, like Hult has done an incredible job, but I've worked for banks, I've worked for other institutions that have done it the other way around. They come in with these off-the-shelf solutions, and you find that a lot of processes that we have iterated over years have not been taken into consideration. And so you end up having even a lot more work with the solutions that are brought in.
Yeah, you mentioned something there around, I think it's when you said, yes, we need a new solution and we want people to speak on the solutions, but actually we want people to speak on the solution in terms of the process. So one of the things at Akadis Global that we do is business process reengineering. And when we go in, we start with a workshop, the exact workshop you're talking about. And it's almost, you always get that one person in the room that poses the process reengineering question as a chicken and egg scenario. How can I tell you what I need if I don't know what the system offers? And oftentimes we say, regardless of the system, you have a process. So forget about the system, just tell us what it is you need. And in the scenario where you get the right person and they can speak to their business processes, the controls they need, what they're actually trying to achieve, you get to actually advise them and put the right solution in front of them. And then other times we find this scenario where you'll get other partners or clients, they will go in and they'll say, okay, well, this is what the system does. And someone will say, oh yeah, that looks good. I want that, I want that, I want that. And they start picking at all these controls, and then you implement the solution. And I often say to people, any solution you implement, it's not a fix-all. And actually, if you're not prepared for the solution, it will expose you as opposed to help you. So you pick a process, and you spoke earlier about a process that crosses finance, marketing, and sales. And you go into some companies and say, yeah, we want a workflow. We want a workflow in the system, and we want to be able to approve it in the system and see the controls throughout. And you implement that. And you say, well, and someone in sales says, I'm trying to get this across the line, but it's not been paid. What's going on? Well, we've introduced the workflow in the system. Oh yeah, but that person in finance doesn't actually go into the system. So you probably didn't need a workflow. So yeah, it's a common issue that we face. And yeah. So,
and one of the things that I think, and again, like I said, I've worked for a number of institutions, but when I've looked at a lot of these big projects, one of the things that I've seen that has caused these, salespeople come and they speak to the execs in the company, and they tell them, look, we did this for this company, we did this for that competitor, and it transformed their bottom line. And they say, okay, we're going to go ahead and do this. And they then bring it in without, like what you're talking about, the workshops that help them really customize and make it bespoke to our needs. And that usually is what ends up becoming a real big pain point for the guys that have to use the solution.
So in my career, I've worked across, so in any digital transformation project, you've got the solution. And with that solution typically comes a specialist system integrator. And their responsibility is licensing, customizations, configurations, effectively plugging it in and switching it on for you, right? Which you pay a pretty penny for. And then on the other side of that equation, you've got the client, the end user, yourself. And you're hoping that they come in with, and they always come with the best intentions, but you're hoping they come in and they offer a bit more than just switching the lights on and throwing it over the fence to you. And I used to work on that side, and ask any consultant, any architect in any industry to do digital transformation, what's your one bugbear? It's the sales guys that go in before you. They sell the world for all the money at half the time. And then they win the project and they say, hey, consultants, architects, off you go. This is what we've promised. Good luck delivering it. And I used to find that happened a lot. And in that, it's the consultants and the delivery team that are left with all of the pains of trying to convince the client that actually this is what you were sold, but this is what you need, and this is what we're going to do. And that's one of the things that made me move over to the client side and the end user side, because I said, actually, the end user needs support. at that point where the partner comes in, the end user needs to understand what it is they're being sold, to make sure that, first of all, what they're being sold is right for them, but also to make sure that they understand their needs, so that before they sit down with any partner, they actually know what they need. So they can't be oversold or undersold in any part of the solution. And that's one of the things that took me over to that side, because if you're sold more than you need, like the scenario I gave earlier with the workflow, it's going to cause you problems in the long run. Your project's going to overrun. You're going to have a solution that doesn't fit purpose. You don't get any of the ROI from your implementation. So actually, that piece there is critical. And yeah, you spoke to it there about not having a solution that meets the needs, or having people come in and sell more or less than what you need is a big risk for any project.
There's a question I can bet anybody listening to this now will be thinking, because more often than not, you find that a lot of people who are in their careers, they've gone through the pain of some solution that's been brought on, and it just created like chaos and lots of work. And so people like you, consultants, like not a lot of people, like I would say, know about you guys, especially the people who do the actual job. Maybe the guys who are bringing in the contracts and all of that do, but the guys who are actually executing these duties that the processes or the solutions actually optimize don't know about you guys. If somebody was like that and was listening to this, and maybe, just maybe, they're in their office right now and they know about some solution that's being rolled out, like what do they do? How do they find people like you? Like where do they find people like you?
Interesting you say that. So in actual fact, in the industry of digital transformation, what we do as project and implementation advisory didn't really exist 10 years ago, even 5 years ago. This is something I've specifically tuned into because I've seen the failures of many projects. So we put ourselves on client side in that role. And how people find us, if you're listening to this podcast, there'll be links to our websites. We write papers. You can find us on all social media platforms. But go to any partner and ask the partner the question. Say, we need resource that is not you, and partners will also advise you to go and talk to an advisory firm like Akadis Global. So we work specifically with the end user client, but we have relationships with the partners because we also make their life easier. Because not only are we preparing our clients to work with the right partner, we're actually preparing our clients to take responsibility for the solution and get the most out of it. So, and that's what a partner wants at the end of the day. They want a successful implementation. And in order for that to happen, the client has to be ready for it. And that's what we do. So we have a relationship with both sides. We work exclusively with the clients, but partners love us because actually we enable them and we help them on their journey as well to digital transformation success.
Fantastic.
Excellent. Ayo, thank you for coming to speak to me today. I wish we could talk more. There's so many things, other things I want to dive into. I'm sure this won't be our last conversation and we'll do this again, but thank you for joining us today.
For sure. Thank you for having me, Khaled. It's been a pleasure.
Excellent. Thank you.